Welcome to the 868. This week is a fun week, a fun show. I get to speak to someone where I was previously a CEO and they were the HR director there. And the relationship blossomed as I sat in awe watching a corporate woman, a parent, channel and navigate life. She's also heavily involved in volunteerism activities in Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to the 868, Kimberly Chan.
Thank you so much, Daren. I'm so happy I can be here with you today.
So, mommy, let's deal with the hard parts first. Your mommy.
The hardest part, yes.
How do you juggle it? How do you juggle life? What's a day in your life like?
So I would start by saying that my daughter was first a blessing. A part of me that people generally don't know is that I struggled to become a mother. And because of that, I think I do manage very well because the mindset is everything that I do is for my daughter. So a day in my life means be a mother before my daughter wakes up, get her off to school, and then I go into corporate mode until it's time to reset as a mom. And then when she goes to bed, I am back to corporate woman.
Oh boy, I often remember the calls and her trying to gather attention from you when you are trying to talk shop.
Yes, and that has been, since she was in my tummy, we've been having that challenge because I got appointed to the very first board, or one of the first boards that I went on in corporate world while I was pregnant. So she's been in that transition with me. Luckily, she's growing to understand how to whisper when I'm in those meetings, but at least anybody I sat on a board with, they know that she's going to come. So I'm happy that that was understood very early. And when that was not understood, I had to take my exit respectfully.
So, daughter first. How do you find time for volunteerism?
So again, everything that I do is for my daughter and with her in mind. So a good example is I've taken a good decision last year, October, where I came off 3 corporate boards. And the truth of it is, when I said this is her time, another one came before me, and that one I could not say no. So the only board I continue to sit on is the National Center for Persons with Disabilities, and that's particularly because I do understand parenthood better, and it's really to support persons with disability, particularly in seeking employment and equal opportunity for all, because, you know, we speak a lot about that, but how many HR practitioners are comfortable even giving them an opportunity to be interviewed?
Well, I want to spend a few minutes on NCPD because it's an entity that I am aware of. I don't think many are aware of it. And I became familiar with it because we have a lot of teak furniture. And many don't know it, but you could carry it down there they pick it up, they restore your furniture to its original glory, and they bring it back to you. And you're contributing to the cause of a greater picture.
So thanks very much for mentioning that, because the truth of it is many people don't know what NCPD can actually do, and I still consider myself a learning director, and I think it's important that people do know that persons with disability can contribute and support, and they do earn revenue, because a lot of times I often hear government come, government go, they talk about, you know, development, they talk about import and export, and we forget that there are people in society that can actually do things like that to contribute, because how many places can you realistically take your teak furniture to get repaired at the cost that the NCPD will do it for? So there are many things that the NCPD is doing and persons with disability that people don't know. So I think that's important, and what kind of education they have, because we have many courses there. So they can do hairdressing, woodwork, as you know, and many other things.
You know, it's a phenomenal organization, and kudos to you and the other directors for volunteering there. For me, it was personal. The last set that was restored was my mother's dining room set. And so every time I sit there, I remember childhood memories coming back, reminding me of times with her. So I think you all are doing a good job. But you're also an entrepreneur.
So yes, and that's because when you become a corporate woman and you then become a mother, you recognize that corporate world takes a lot from you and there are things that you still have to do to continue to develop your own self. And I think I became an entrepreneur because it just came naturally. And it came naturally because people started to reach out to me for things like, can you help us with training? Can you sit on a disciplinary panel for us? And I still do a lot of that privately and confidentially, so people don't know that I do a lot of that and I have never advertised. Then people started to come to me to do a visa application, fill out a passport form, and I started to do all of those things without charge. And I still do a lot of it without charge. If it comes as a business, then great. And then the other thing that people don't know is that I do a lot of online shopping and selling, and that really started because I am a shopaholic, and I recognize that being a shopaholic, I spent all of my money and then there were things that just packed up there. So, and then with my hobby of traveling, every time I travel, I have that opportunity because it's either you spend your money and bring things for you that your money just deplete, or you bring things and you resell it for people who can't afford to travel and do it. And it naturally became a business. So everything that I do came to me naturally, but I think I have a strong passion for corporate training and really supporting the HR profession, which I always say I want to get rid out of, as you know, but something just keeps holding me back.
Well, tell us about corporate world.
So the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yes, let's
Which
talk
one do you want
corporate.
first?
The ugly.
So, and the ugly for me is very personal. And the reason why I would say personal to me is because many people face different challenges in corporate world. And I would say one of the uglies for me personally was being a female. And that's because I saw men being stronger, and I had to make sure that I commanded that respect. And I commanded that respect by proving myself and letting my work speak for itself. That's one. Two, I think being a mother also sets you apart. So yes, people will say, we want to give you an opportunity, we want to do things for you, but don't fully understand when you can't do some things, and those some things may be outside of the work realm. And one of the ugliest is that fighting, and that fighting, and I use the word fighting because it's a lot of fighting. I think people still don't understand that there's enough for all of us. And sadly, a lot of that fighting comes from corporate women, because I've never had a corporate man fight against me. And when I say fight, some of those fights aren't loud. They're not physical, of course, but it's just the subtle things, and that's why I've chosen to, really separate myself and do what I do independently. And I think that's the real ugly that people don't often talk about. And recently when I do interviews, because I do hundreds of interviews, and when I do interviews, it's some of the unspoken things that I would hear others say that they are facing in workspaces that they can now, they don't want to see, or they can't see, but they want to get out of that workspace because of that ugly and corporate world.
So many don't know it, but now I'm going to share with them. You are in the HR corporate world. And many don't understand it yet, but what I marveled over the last year or so is you taking your professionalism and your profession and giving tidbits using social media. And I marveled recently when we had a conversation where I told you, you are now an influencer. Not one of those social ones, but a professional influencer.
Yes, and I've actually gotten that from someone that I hold in very high regard, and I won't call his name for obvious reasons, but it was a random day, and he reached out to me on LinkedIn, and he said, I'm looking for someone to deliver something in corporate space, and he outright said to me, he said, Kimberly, I've selected you because I know many HR people, but I don't have a lot of respect for HR people. But based on what I see in terms of what you promote and how you carry yourself, I felt that, I wanted to have a conversation with you. And this was someone who we've known each other, corporate space, LinkedIn, never formally interacted, never formally met, just maybe in events saying hi. And I took that, and I felt really special about it. And he gave me an opportunity to do one program, and then that one program turned into 2 programs, and hopefully will turn into more programs. And I think that is what really drives me and reminds me that I need to stay true and loyal to exactly what I do as an HR practitioner.
In these podcasts, we tend to leave the hard questions for the end, but that's not me. Corporate woman, HR, professional, mother, volunteer, activist, influencer. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Some days I am honestly saying to one of my teen friends who we started corporate world together, and we're very different spaces, and often I can get ungrateful and say, I want to see myself in the next role as an organization leader, not just an HR leader. So I'm done with HR roles, and I really want to do something. And I choose organizations very carefully where I go, because I want to go where I can leave an impact. So I would say, yes, my next role should be one that leads an organization rather than a department. And when I feel very grateful, I say, to be honest with you, sometimes I think I'm living my dream life. And that's because I have the opportunity to travel. I'm blessed with a daughter that I can share so many memories with. And I'm no longer wondering where my next income is going to come from, because I've built that income stream. So I feel grateful, and I say I'm living my dream life, but that future role will be something that's bigger than what I am accustomed to doing.
And I know it will be. So I'm going to ask it in a professional way. We've seen the trends. We're noticing the trends. Women are on top of the pyramid now in Trinidad and Tobago. We're noticing that it's a lot of accounting and or HR minds, women, that are now at the apex positions. What would you say about that?
I'm very proud. I'm proud to be a woman. I think we're finally getting to where we need to be. And I am not one of those females that are advocating for women to be at the top and men go below. I'm saying give an equal opportunity for those females that have proven themselves and continue to do the work, because no longer men can get a position because it's a boys' club. It's now we are really competing on a level of education, experience, and profitability, because what does the top mind think about? What do directors want? They want profitability, and women have proven that they can bring profitability and success. And one of the things that I pride myself on as an HR practitioner is that in probably every 80 HR practitioners, or not even 80, you talk to a CEO and they will say, well, HR is just a non-revenue generating department. And the one thing I'm sure that none of my CEOs could say is that HR departments led by Kim is non-revenue generating, because there's always a way that I would find to reduce expenses and increase income.
Well, I've seen you year after year tick. TTMAs tick. I've seen you representing, I've seen you advocating locally and regionally. Are we allowed to talk about your actual profession?
Of course. So I see no reason why not to share, because it's not confidential. So at present, I am the head of Human Resources and Business Partnerships at CariChris, which is more or less shared services. So I oversee marketing, branding, a bit of IT, and of course HR, and most of the administrative functions. And I remember when I got that role, they never had HR before. So the last CEO and I were trying to figure out what do we call this, and they were looking for an HR manager. And I said, at this stage in my career, I don't want to be an HR manager. Let's talk about what different. And we sat down and we determined. He told me what he wanted, and I said, okay, if you want me to look at your HR element and looking at culture, we came up with the title of Manager of People and Culture. And then within 1 year, we had a plan that he wanted me to be more forward-facing and supported business development, which is the function of the CEO. And I said, okay, I worked in the role, and then I formally got the role. So I think that's a key point to touch on, because many people want the position without doing the work. I did the work for 1 year, and then I got the title. And a lot of what I do now is more of business development and less of HR. And it's very unusual to find HR practitioners doing that. And that's because, one, I'm blessed with a really good CEO who supports a lot of what I do. So I return that support. And as you would have mentioned, some of those conferences that we're attending, and many of those conferences I do because I get really down and interact with persons. I try to ensure that any organization that I'm with, the people know that I'm aligned to that brand.
So we've heard a lot about who Kim is. We've heard a lot about the profession. We know what is your substantive post and your other posts. I want to return back to motherhood. And I want to talk because I don't think it's talked often enough. As we see, most of the women are apex positions. We see in Trinidad, we have a president, a prime minister, opposition leader. So the politics is riddled with them at the top. We've seen even in corporate Trinidad that they are at the top of the game. Most of the chambers, most of the corporations are led by women. But I want to go back to the personal part of it. The part that we started talking about. The talking on the phone while you're in meetings and Zooms, the preparing the meals, the ensuring that they're in school. I want to talk about that. I want you to run me through how a day in your life really is.
So I will share with you what many people still perhaps don't know about me. So I've had a good early life, and I was married, and that did not work out. And I often make the joke, which you would know, the only thing I've ever failed in my life is my marriage. But I still don't like being called a single mother. That's because my ex-husband is very active, so I'm not a single mother. I'm a mother and he's a father. And I think people still don't want to understand, that relationship that we share, and we only share that relationship because we understand the importance of that in growing up my daughter. So my daughter does not and has not been affected by that. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk about these things, but I think it's very, very possible for relationships to end but remain very solid for the upbringing of children. And I think having that support is key to where my life is at in corporate and with my daughter. I think support, in fact, I don't think I know that the support of my parents, because outside of her father, my parents are the only people that my daughter would stay with. Outside of that, it's just me. So oftentimes when there's something and I can't attend, it's because I'm mummying. And I have no problem with missing things because of that. And the support that I've gotten from her father and my parents has been really phenomenal in terms of I don't ever have to worry about if I can't do something corporate or I can't do something for work because I'm a single mother, as people tend to term it and I get offended by, which I tell you and we laugh about, right? So every single day, fortunately, again, I have the opportunity to work from home because I have a full-on home office and I work in a very flexible organization, which I could boast on. I actually told the Minister of Labor once, well, you tell me which other organization allows the staff to work from home all the time, and the organization is working productively. We have no issues on that. I get up, I prepare everything for my daughter in the morning. Then I wake her up, and I do some work at 6 a.m. So I check my emails at 6 a.m. while I'm preparing her breakfast, lunch. Then wake her up, get her dressed, drop her off to school and back home. Work for the entire day, go and get her, come back home. When I come back home with her, it's bathe her, ensure she's fed, give her some love, and set her off. She'll watch some TV. And I am one of those moms who have no choice but to allow her the devices. I go back to work. And then at night, give her some love, she goes to bed, and I go back to work.
Wow. So,
but I don't work on the weekends. That's the one rule I have. Unless it is absolutely necessary, I am not going to work on the weekend, but you're going to get 24 hours every day from me during the week.
Superwoman. I'm jumping all over the place. what are 10 lessons from all of these discussions today? What are 10 lessons that you would like to partake to those coming after you, those there with you, traveling and navigating this world?
10 things is a lot to think about, but I would say definitely become a mom if you can, because everything in your life will fall naturally. And while people see children as sometimes hindrances and burdens and setbacks, if you know how to use that love that you get from your children, corporate will become very easy for you. I would say don't forget your kids in the process of being corporate. One does not have to wait on the other to thrive. I would say in corporate world, always remember who you are. Remember and remain true to your values. I never forget that my father said, don't forget where you come from or else I will remind you. And know who you are doing this for, because I'm doing this because my daughter has to have a better life than me, and I'm doing this because my parents are waiting every single day to see what's new coming, because they know something new is always going to come. To survive corporate, I would say don't do anything unethical, even if you think that it's going to get you up the ladder easily, because I've had to turn things down and say no, and took unpopular positions when everybody else said yes. Continue to educate yourself, because the one thing that people can't win you with is when you have the right information. There is no need to be power hungry. It's going to come to you naturally. Don't say no to work, and don't work to rule. It's the peace of mind, and I would say have clear direction. And I've seen too many women chase things before career, and I think that's where women suffer. You know, you chase that fast life, you get caught up in all the fanciness, and you want to do things. And one of the things I would say is people never knew when I was going to get divorced and when I got divorced, and people also never knew, and they still wonder many things. And I had to say to them, now when I could fly halfway around the world, don't look and judge that. Because you don't know when I was doing nothing because I was saving for a down payment for a mortgage. And little things like that, I think young people aren't told enough. Put in the work before and you're going to get those rewards. And you don't have to sacrifice your personal life to become a corporate woman.
To the parents of Kimberly Chan, Mr. and Mrs. Chan, I want to say congrats. You've done well. You've raised a girl to become a real woman. And that is all the exercises as parents in this assignment called life. And as we juggle it with work and life and all the different entanglements, what more could we ask for? Kim, if you were a fruit, what would you call yourself?
I don't even know. What's the most popular fruit it have? Or the most expensive one?
Well, we Caribbean people,
I think I would be a Julie Mango.
That's what I'm talking about. Why a Julie Mango?
Because it's always sweet. You ever get sour Julie Mango yet?
No.
Right. Anybody ever refuse a Julie Mango yet?
No.
Good, that's why.
You've heard it. You've heard it here on the 868 podcast, guys. Guys, it has been a pleasure sitting and discussing life holistically with a woman, a mother, a professional, a volunteer, an activist, how many other titles she holds and will hold in time. It's been a pleasure sitting with Kimberly Chan. I am your host, Daren Lee Sing. You've been watching the 868 podcast. And remember, the only way to the other side is through.